Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We're going to get started as it's 12 o'clock. So thank you again. In today's webinar, we'll be using DarkOwl Vision to conduct searches on the darknet using COVID and COVID-related scams as a case study. I'm going to start my video here. Hello, my name is Leah. I'll be hosting it in just a moment. I'll turn this over to my colleague, Damien. Damien's one of our product engineers. He is part of our analyst team. And before joining us, he was a professor of criminology at Flagler College, and he has extensive experience conducting research of this nature. So before I turn it over to him, I just want to give mention a couple quick items. So we will not be doing a Q&A in this webinar, a live Q&A that is, but we encourage you to submit questions throughout using the Q&A function. And then we'll follow up individually to answer those questions. We'll also compile some of the more helpful questions into a list and circulate that after the webinar via email. And we are also recording this webinar, so in that same email, I'll include a link to the webinar so that you can share it or rewatch it if you're interested in doing that. So without further ado, I will go ahead and turn this over to Damien. One second.
Cool.
All
Awesome.
right.
So I will just share my screen. So yeah, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. I think I am sharing my screen now. So hopefully everybody is able to see it. Let me know if it's not working. So yeah, like Leah said, my plan today is basically highlight some of our features, go over some interesting searches, sort of how maybe I would at least start building some searches related to COVID or coronavirus and things of that nature. And yeah, just kind of highlight some of the features that we have and go from there a little bit and be respectful of your time at the same time here. So before I start, the one thing I want to say is I have run these searches. I ran them literally a few minutes ago, but we're always kind of indexing data. The dark web's always kind of changing. I have a pretty good idea of what we're going to see and things out there, but you know, it is the dark web, and it can be tricky to know or predict what exactly is going to happen. So on that note, I'm mostly going to be trying to do this live working in Vision, but I did prepare some screenshots, a few slides and things like that, so that if we wanted to actually see what some of this information looks like on the dark web, well, we can do that kind of through pictures and not through me trying to navigate Tor live in front of a lot of people. And thank you all for showing up, by the way. So anyway, if you've been paying attention to the news, and there's not really much else for us to do right now, right? You're gonna kind of know that we are sort of, and it's been said that we're in almost a golden age of scams, or for scammers right now. And you can see just some screenshots of you know, different government agencies, government figures have all kind of been involved in, you know, upping their anti-scam and anti-crime directives. I know the FBI especially has been directed to pay more attention to scams that are occurring on the dark web, scams that are originating from the dark web and actually impacting more of the surface web and things of that nature. So we know that we're all working from home. There's going to be a lot more scams and things like that. And so to kind of start this, I figured we'd do a basic search and then maybe look at some of the more common scams, starting with URL redirects, which are basically maybe the most common, but a very common form of what you're going to see in like phishing attacks, where you click on a URL and you think you're logging into PayPal. Guess what? It's not PayPal. It's somebody on the dark web who now has like your login credentials, right? And so on that note, we can kind of go back here. And before I would begin any sort of search regarding a specific topic, I want to make sure that I'm capturing all sort of the relevant search terms from that. And so this can evolve over time as you do a few searches and you learn more of the relevant terms and things of that nature. But the first one that I would do is, you know, we could do just coronavirus, right? Or obviously there's many other names, you know, COVID or COVID-19. Sometimes that 19 could get caught, so I want to make sure I'm including that in there as well. Or as I realized doing this, the dark web is not full of spelling bee champions. So I'm going to also do something like coronavirus as two different words. Guess I shouldn't talk because I just misspelled. So anyway, uh, so I could run a search like this, and I'm actually going to put this on my clipboard so I don't have to type that every time. We'll see that we have roughly 1.8 million entries that are going to mention one of these terms, which is an awful lot, and we are not going to sit here and go through all of them today. So this is kind of an example, I think, of where knowing what you want to look for before you go and do your searches is going to go a long way. So like I mentioned, maybe we want to look at URL redirects. Maybe we're not just interested in somebody who infected a cat. I don't know what that means. I don't even think that's possible. But anyway, so let's do an and let's do something like these URL redirects. If we think about like what's on the page, oftentimes they're having you click for more information or something like that. So let's do something like for more information or click or download file. And I'll actually put a proximity modifier on that last one. For those that haven't used that before, that basically means that there could be one word. So maybe download a file. If I didn't put this proximity modifier on there, I would not have been able to catch something like that. So if I'm looking for URL redirects and I know that these are things that are mentioned on their page, maybe I'm going to find something a little bit more specific to what I want now too. And also, maybe I'm not so interested, and you see that reduced it already significantly, but coronavirus is being talked about by a lot of people on forums and things of that nature. So maybe I want to look at some of our groups, and maybe I just want to exclude forums, maybe want to exclude some blogs too. Maybe I don't really care what forums and blogs are saying about this. Cool. Blogs or forums. First result we'll look at, we see coronaphobia. We have a username. He posted this just a few days ago. And yeah, this looks like somebody who is setting up a URL redirect, basically going to say more anxious with their life, deadly, how to cope with it. Click this link. Obviously, you click that link and he kind of gave us kind of a nice keyword list down here too. But obviously, if you click this link, they're going to ask for money. You'll pay them money and you're not going to get anything in return because this is the darknet and that is a scam, right? And so if we want to see, I guess I should mention this too, if you haven't used Vision very often, I know we have kind of a mix of experience and technical expertise and stuff today. Obviously, when we index this information into our database, we're stripping out images and videos and macros and hidden scripts and things like that on the page, more kind of for safety, protection, lots of different reasons that we do that. So, but I can go in the metadata and see where this came from. And just as an example, I did go out and find this post and we can click here and scroll down. We'll see that this is sort of what it actually looked like on the internet. So we see that there's a Bitcoin address. If I really wanted to do a more thorough investigation, I'd probably pivot here and take that Bitcoin address and do some more searches as well. But yeah, so you can kind of see, you know, this and this are the same exact page, but obviously we're stripping out a lot of the excess information and images and things like that. That could be dangerous as well. You can see the syntax I used below. Not that I'm going to pay any Bitcoin to find out what this is, but it's a zip file from the dark web for very cheap. You know, I can imagine it's not going to be very valuable information in a lot of different ways. And so you would wonder, and this guy's not even charging very much money, where are they learning to do things like this? And so part of me was wondering how, because there's a lot of these, like people are popping up, this is becoming a more increasingly common scam. Before you kind of copy and paste the form into an email and you can spam people, this is a little bit more involved. And so I sort of questioned asked myself, how are people, scammers that maybe aren't necessarily the intellectual peak of the dark web, how are they all learning to do this? And so then I constructed a search to see if we could find any sorts of guides or anything like that. And so I'll just clear this. We'll just go home and build another search. And so for something like this, I'm going to be looking for, URL and redirect, or excuse me, redirectors. I just from some searching, I've seen that they've been used both ways. So I'm going to make sure that I use kind of both terms there, get my second parenthesis. What else should I build here? We'll look at guide, and we'll look at scam or attack and see what we can get from this search. Cool. And so looks like we're getting a lot of results. Yep, I ran this earlier. NVIDIA, and this is again just a little bit of an example of refining a search. I've looked at this NVIDIA result numerous times, and there's not much information interesting in there. So let's maybe pivot just a little bit and get rid of NVIDIA and NVIDIA.com. There we go. And that gets rid of a bunch more. And now we can kind of see a little bit more, some examples of maybe how, let me just do something quick, of how guides can be available as well. So I've looked at a few of these earlier today just to kind of make sure that I'm sticking on time today. I know that this fifth one is one that's a little bit more of an interesting result, where they talk about ethical hacking techniques, not so sure about that. But essentially it kind of looks like here that they are discussing basically ways that you could do URL redirects. It looks like they're doing it on Telegram. That's one of our recent sources that we added. It's a chat application. Hacking is illegal for own. Okay, right, buddy. Looks like he has some instructions, what to do, an example, and things like that. So yeah, so it looks like this is a group that's a little bit kind of discussing how to commit crimes on here. So that's just a little bit of an example of what that might look like. Not too much to talk about there. But what I wanted to do, and this is kind of another example, and something that I think, maybe to do more often as you use this, is maybe I want to pivot a little bit more here. And so I see that this is somebody called Hacking Zone. See that they have about 1,500 members, it says, and it looks like they're kind of interested in sharing illegal information. So why don't I just pivot a little bit? And why don't I just do Hacking Zone, and maybe I limit it to only Telegram. And we'll just see what else these guys do. So they have numerous entries. Looks like they're pretty active out here. Looks like if I kind of look at the crawl date, looks like they've been active for a few months at least, going back to September, August there. Kind of looks like, oh, they have an Instagram. That's cool. Looks like they have Instagrams, photos, texts. So yeah, it looks like a lot of a real inspired discussion. But obviously, if I were interested in this group, I could add more terms, and whatever else I'd want to search for, and kind of dig a little bit deeper on them. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it for the Hacking Zone one. So anyway, that's just a little bit of an example if I were going to build kind of a search, how I would, evolve it over time to get more and more specific information, at least doing it very quickly so I don't run over on time here. All right. And so now the next one, I think a very common, or I guess not very common, but what's becoming increasingly common as panic is kind of increasing over time is people searching for vaccines, for medication, for anything that would allow them to essentially, have a fighting chance. Taking advantage of people's desperation is, the oldest scamming trick in the book. So obviously things like vaccines are going to be kind of at the top ahead for anybody who's really looking at, things for sale. Of course, we know that there is not a vaccine currently developed, right? So as far as, governments we know and things like that. So we don't really have a vaccine yet, right? But maybe the dark web has a vaccine. Maybe we just aren't looking in the right places in our hospitals and our medical professionals, maybe we should be looking on the dark web. Uh, so so yeah, let's run a search, and I'm just going to put in that coronavirus sort of search term field that I had before, and let's also look for vaccine is good, or cure could work there too, and let's maybe also look you know here, let's do for sale or available, or oops, I should capitalize these, or purchase. I want to miss my parenthesis there. Let's run this and see what we can find here. Oh, I must have typed in something wrong. Uh-oh. Well, this is why I went in before and saved all of these searches, so that in case I type something in wrong and I don't see it, I'm just going to run that search and get what I wanted. So there we go. Cool. Save searches is a great feature also in DarkOwl Vision, right? So you can see the search should be mostly the same, but yeah, so there's a search looking for vaccines on the dark web. We'll just kind of take a look here at some of these. We are selling coronavirus to protect you against the coronavirus, in all caps. Israeli scientists, confirmed scientists have developed the first vaccine. It's ready in a few days, available. Spread the link. One packet has 10 vaccines for $100. Economical, right? And again, so I kind of looked at the metadata. Again, earlier today, we see that this is actually a very recent result, so they are still being active as well. And just to kind of give you a little bit of a preview of what that looks like, here is the actual posting for it. You can see the text is the same, but obviously the images are different in that regard. So yeah, that's basically what the marketplace looks like. You can see the pricing and everything on here as well. No more coronavirus death. That would be nice, but I'm a little bit skeptical. So, and you should be too. So that's kind of just a basic search if I'm looking at vaccines. There's a few more results here that are kind of interesting. Again, some more, basically looks like the same exact one, just posted in a different place. This is on an Onion site. This is on Pastebin. I was looking at this a little bit earlier, somebody pretending to be the coronavirus themselves and talking from the perspective of the virus. I don't know, people are weird. So please read the whole world. He has a lab that's mass producing the vaccine that's never been developed. So yeah, each vial is $5,000. So he's a little bit more expensive than our friend up top. So yeah, you can just kind of see, they actually have the Corona onion, which I'm surprised. But yeah, so you can kind of see the variety of crazy things people are willing to try to sell you, show things like that. And I actually have kind of another example of that as well. So that's basically some of the vaccines. There's way too many of these. I have a few more pictures I can show later if you want to see actual dark web pictures and stuff. But yeah, that's kind of the vaccine thing there. So when I was browsing this earlier, and another analyst found this too, actually, and sent this over. There's different cures. Obviously, we look at this and this looks like you're supposed to inject yourself or something with this vaccine. But we found another way that you could cure yourself of coronavirus, and that is something called pure frequency. Cool. And so we see we got 5 entries that match this, which makes sense because this is a weird one. And we see pure frequency to kill the coronavirus, kill coronavirus from body and surrounding area. Listen to this 3 to 6 times a day. He has a download link there as well. I have an image of these that I can just show you. This is what it actually looks like on the dark web as well. So basically, I was just taking a term that I had heard or had seen in another post, wondering what pure frequency could even mean, running some searches. And I've learned that basically if you listen to this specific pure tone at a certain kilohertz 3 to 6 times a day, that this is going to cure you of your coronavirus, which is very novel medical approach, but unfortunately, probably isn't real. Right. So just a little bit to kind of show you kind of the variety of scams when it comes to a cure for the coronavirus. There's also, on the flip side of that, people that would do, I guess, the opposite of that and essentially attempt to weaponize this virus as well. So why don't I come back here and I'll do kind of my corona search again, and we'll see if we can find anything about, let's do infected blood and buy. Let's see if we can find people that are looking to buy infected blood, corona infected blood, basically. And it looks like there's 52 entries here. I've looked over these Onionland results a little bit earlier, so I'm kind of skipping a step here. I've already looked through some of these, and I know that the Onionland ones are just kind of not super interesting. So let me just exclude Onionland and see what we find that is not from there. Cool. And then we can just look here. We have the deep paste again. And this looks like he's a laboratory doctor. He has 24 blood samples of new COVID. He's selling for $100. Wow. He can send tests when payment. He ships by refrigerator to not let the bacteria die. It's a virus, but and ensure viral life. We have an email address. Obviously, I could pivot, copy this email address, do some searches on his email if I really wanted to figure out more about this person. Yeah, that's just kind of an example there. So some people seem interested in selling their blood and stuff. I'd click through some of these, but I don't know if I screened them, so I don't know what we might see. And we can just kind of look. This is obviously, it's from deep paste again, so very not interesting color choices here, but you can see it's a text that we basically have already seen. There's a couple comments that were messed up on there as well that I included in the picture, just so we can remember that the dark web has people on it like this. So yeah, that's basically a little bit of a bioweapon type stuff out there. There's a few people selling blood, a few people selling other bodily fluids. People have been, even prior to this, people on the dark web claimed that they were selling HIV infected blood often and things of that nature. So again, this maybe isn't a uniquely new scam, but again, kind of old scams, new topic basically when it comes to a lot of this stuff. So obviously we would imagine most marketplaces on the dark web wouldn't be against this activity, because obviously they make money through the commission of these sales. So one of the last things I wanted to do is maybe see if we could get an understanding of how marketplaces are reacting to the sale of these products. And I mean, I've only touched the very tip of the iceberg. Obviously, there's lots of things like PPE being sold out there, Purell, probably toilet paper as well. Things like that, where legitimate goods that were hoarded are now being, maybe potentially sold on the dark web. So maybe we can find something about a marketplace discussing coronavirus. So let's do our little coronavirus search, and let's do marketplace or crypto market. And, excuse me, maybe we only care about like a founder or administrator or admin. And let's see if there's an announcement. All right, so we actually ended up with a lot of different results here as well. Obviously, one of the things I should do here, because we're really only concerned about the last 30 days, let's maybe add a filter to just the last 30 days here. There, and that cuts out a decent chunk of, oh, I see what my problem is. Debugging on the fly. Let's go. All right. So as we see, me fixing my syntax got me a lot better navigatable search results. More in the interest of time here, since I see we're coming up on 12:30 already. I can click through, and I know that some of these are announcements. A lot of this is admins talking about different markets shutting down, markets and exit scams and things like that. You see that we highlight text, so sometimes if I know that I'm looking for something Corona specific, I could scroll through and look through that. Here's a little bit more chatter of people on a marketplace talking about coronavirus, things like that. But one of the more interesting results I wanted to look at here was kind of this one. The monopoly market is very prominent, high volume marketplace as well. And this is from the founder of the monopoly marketplace. And I've read this a little bit, lots of just stuff, not wouldn't recommend going on the dark web and, filling your reading list with this type of stuff. But if we scroll down, we see, okay, finally they're talking about coronavirus a little bit. Any vendor caught flogging a cure will not only be permanently removed from the market, but should be avoided like the Spanish flu. You're about to ingest drugs from a stranger on the internet. Shouldn't be using people that use COVID-19 as a marketing tool. So this is the very long story of something that I'm trying to get to here, is that darknet markets a lot of times are not really aiding in the facilitation of a lot of these goods. This is not every market, so I'm not going to say like, oh, the markets don't sell bad things. Obviously, there's marketplaces where there's demand, there is going to emerge a marketplace. That's just the way it is. That's economics essentially. But not all marketplaces are really buying into this idea that they should just allow anything to be bought and sold on there. So, it's been in the news that obviously Amazon, eBay, places like that are trying to push against people who are price gouging on essential goods, on PPE and things of that nature. Not necessarily entirely different on certain marketplaces. All right. Not all. There's plenty of people out there in marketplaces selling this stuff. But it's not as easy to come by as like drugs, we would say, for instance. And so I can't talk too much about it, but there is sort of an interesting kind of question that I hope, as security intel researchers or whatever we all are in this room today, that there's a lot of sort of assumptions that if people can't sell their goods on Amazon, that why don't they just turn to the dark web and start selling things? And we're seeing, preliminarily, and I hope that there's more data collection on this, that might not always be the case. And so I don't want to say too much else without more data on that. But just because somebody who stocked up on TP in Tennessee somewhere, can't sell their goods on Amazon anymore, doesn't mean that they suddenly developed the technical skills necessary to successfully sell goods on the dark web. So again, just kind of an interesting, a little bit of a research question that I would hope we could answer someday. Yet, even though there are some marketplaces that have, kind of halted the sale of PPE and essential goods, it was not hard at all. One of the analysts, very thankful for today, went out and found like a bunch of these marketplace pictures in a matter of minutes. So it's not exactly the rarest thing on earth. We see this person selling their infected blood for $1,000. I'll talk about that in a second. We see some PPE being sold, masks being sold, $130 per mask. Some supposed cures being sold as well. Tests, survival handbooks. So to say that the marketplaces are not responding to coronavirus seems like a pretty inaccurate statement to make. But sort of the modalities and the ways that they are presenting this threat is a little bit unique in the sense that the demand for these goods has all changed. So the marketplaces are a pretty interesting place. And obviously I can't read this. We're almost out of time. but this is a rival marketplace to the Monopoly marketplace that posted that you can't sell things, basically saying Monopoly is full of crap and that now they're being talked about in the media. So don't trust Monopoly, come buy drugs from us instead. And that is my time. So I'm going to be respectful. I'm going to stop. Thank everybody. I thank pretty much all of you guys and girls for coming out today. I enjoyed running through this. That went a lot faster than I was anticipating. I was hoping to do a little bit more deeper dives, but like Leah said at the beginning, any questions, use the Q&A feature on here. We'll follow up with those too. I'm on the product team, so if you email us at productsupport@darkowl.com, I'll be there to help with that stuff as well.
Yeah, I just want to jump in here and say thank you to those who submitted questions to our Q&A. We got some really good questions in. Like I said, just because of time today, we are going to follow up to answer those. If any of you are interested in doing a more in-depth demo with us after this, of course, feel free to reach out to either Damien or I. I will, like I mentioned, be circulating an email with answers to the Q&As and also a link to the recording of this webinar. So feel free to just reply to that email and we'll get you set up for a demo, or if you have further questions, we can answer it in that email thread. So I believe that was all I had to say. Thank you so much for attending. We really appreciate it. And look out for that email from us, and hopefully we'll be hosting more of these soon. So everybody have a great rest of your day.